What's up guys, welcome back to another video. The trade from yesterday was an absolute banger. I really hope that you guys follow it along because, well, everything that we mentioned inside the trade yesterday ended up being spot on. I even caught the trade live on Twitter and gave the exact entry, gave the exact CISD, and ultimately yesterday was one of the best trading days that I've had personally over the last couple of weeks. And so yeah, that makes it the 127th win out of the last 162 trade calls made here on YouTube publicly, which makes it about an 80% win rate. And the good news is that in 2 weeks, I'm going to be hosting a free masterclass breaking down this exact system for you, step by step. You're going to get the complete framework. If you want, sign up in the link below. Anyone that signs up before the event is going to get a free bonus on the day itself. And just a heads up, just because you're in the newsletter doesn't mean that you automatically sign up. You still have to click the link. So yeah, do that. And otherwise, yeah, let's look to replicate the success from yesterday in today's video. So starting things off on the daily bias, we closed pretty bearish. And so we're going to be looking for shorts today, primarily, if the Wi-Fi will allow me to load. And taking a look at the PDRAs on the 1 hourly chart, this is super clear because this right here is a 1 hourly bearish changes to delivery, which means we are already way more bearish compared to yesterday. And so far, we are retracing back into this order block right here, which is going to be a key level for price to just go lower from. So far, in terms of the 1 hourly, we have that key level, and we also have this one right here, which is a bearish fair value gap. Both of them in line. Don't ask me which one is going to be the more likely to get rejected from. The truth is, I don't know, and it's not the job of a trader to know that either. We're not in the business of predicting what the market's going to do next. We're in the business of marking out some key levels and setting some certain, criteria. When those criteria are met at certain times, then we are going to just take a trade, right? It's more of a game of reading and reacting rather than trying to predict. So in terms of the London, this is also setting up very nicely in terms of the session profiles because Asia is accumulation. London so far has swept above Asia, and you have gotten a 5-minute change in state delivery. For those of you who are following me on Twitter, yesterday during the London session, we had a very similar thing play out. Only, yesterday during the London, we just completely rebounded. Today's a little bit different. I wish I was on the chance to trading the London because this would have been a pretty good trade. But overall, we've gotten a bearish change in state delivery. This is looking kind of like a accumulation, potential manipulation down into distribution type of setup. And I'm not mistaken, there is going to be news today. And what you're going to look for today in the New York session is just for some sort of retrace before just continuation back towards the downside. And the intraday target remains to be 100,000. Like, I do think that we are going to retest this level. Even if you don't, it's not much of a worry either because the system, basically, you take your profit at 2R, or if you want to leave a runner, for example, let's say you enter into the trade here, you place your stop loss here, around here would be 2R, but if you have a belief that, price is going to get to this level, recommended practice is to just take either 66% or 75% profit at 2R and then leaving a runner before closing the rest there. If you think today's going to be a pretty volatile day, which I think it's going to be because we have news, then you could potentially take 50% 2R and 50% at the rest. At the end of the day, there is no such thing as one best, take profit method. There are going to be times where you miss out on the bigger move. There are going to be times where you're going to be grateful that you took your profit like really quickly because, the market just doesn't give you much. The truth is, both approaches work. You just need to decide on the approach that you are willing to take. But anyways, going back to the intraday target, these are just relatively equal lows, plus this is the Asia low. And so far, we have already tapped into the 1 hourly PD array, so all that remains. What's good, guys? So the camera ran out of battery halfway through the recording. I had no idea. Should have checked the battery probably before recording. But anyways, we're back. So all that remains is going to be to capture the right timing. So specifically, you're going to be looking for the hour before news for an entry, and then potentially you're going to wait for the move to end an hour after news. This is going to be kind of like the golden zone. So it's news today is definitely going to fall between 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. New York. Just if you want to optimize it even more, then you're going to be looking for the hour before news to the hour after news. And now, before we start getting ahead of ourselves here, let's talk real quick about some just invalidation scenarios because it's always good to kind of prepare for that. But so far, based on how the order flow has been just shaping up so far, it doesn't look like there's going to be much of a rejection. The most that you could hope for is a break above this bearish order block right here to flip it into potential support before price continues higher. But unless that happens, which is looking a little bit unlikely, we're going to be looking for shorts today for the most part. Now, taking a look at Ethereum real quick, it's actually looking way more bullish, at least compared to Bitcoin. Relative to Bitcoin, Ethereum, you're getting much stronger bullish moves, but yesterday's candle still closed pretty bearish. Actually, not super bearish, but either way, we're still going to be looking for shorts on Ethereum, simply because Bitcoin is projected to dump. Now, it does look like it has more strength compared to Bitcoin, so I'll probably lean towards Bitcoin for short. And in the event that we do start going long, I'll lean towards Ethereum. And ultimately, I think this was a pretty solid trade setup. This was discussed inside Bootcamp yesterday, actually. Yeah, in terms of the 1 hourly chart, you have this bearish fair value gap. Also, this entire block here is known as a bearish order block. And so yeah, you're just going to be looking for price to head lower. Here you have 3 relatively equal lows, so that is going to be the intraday target for today. In terms of the 5-minute chart, it's just playing out very similarly compared to Bitcoin. Over here you have your bearish change in state of delivery on the 5-minute chart, so in the event that you get back into this bearish CISD zone, 3521, this is a strong low, this is a strong high, so you can just look for price to head lower from that point onwards. Now let's take a look at Solana real quick. Now in terms of Solana, we are looking very bearish on the daily chart. We are still reaching towards these levels right here, so nothing's going to change in terms of Solana. In terms of the higher bias, nothing's going to change too much with Solana in regards to the higher time frame bias. We're still just reaching for that level. In terms of the lower time frame, let's see if it differs a little bit from Ethereum and Bitcoin. And right now, right away, you can see the comparative kind of strength, or rather weakness, because right here is a fair value gap, and well, yeah, for the most part, you also have that bearish order block right here. So you're just going to look for a price to dump from this point onwards. And in terms of the 5-minute chart, you will also have a Asia session, and London has swept above the Asia session, and you're forming very clear, bits of order flow at the moment. For example, this remains the bearish kind of level for you to execute from, so something like this would also be valid already. So today seems like a very straightforward day. There's not too much to discuss here. Obviously, some days are less straightforward, but today we're lucky that we have news and price actions playing out in a really solid manner. So just make sure you execute. This seems so far like a little bit of an A+ day. So execute it, and as usual, follow me on Twitter if you want to follow along with the live trades that I will be taking later. But until then, I'll see you. Ciao, ciao.